What the hell are you doing?
I might ask you the same question.
Who are you? What? Get your clothes on.
Will you leave immediately, please?
What?
You're in the wrong flat. This flat belongs to Patrick Balfour. He's in Hong Kong and he lent me the key. Now get out.
We leased it from the agents last weekend.
Yes, well, obviously that changes things a bit.
Three Films and a Podcast has no claim of ownership on any film footage used in this episode. All film footage is owned in its entirety by the copyright holders and is used solely with the intent of film criticism, commentary, and education under fair use law. And just like every car in Too Fast, Too Furious, this podcast contains spoilers. Enjoy.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Three Films and a Podcast, the show where three friends challenge each other to broaden their cinematic horizons through a series of themed rounds. My name is Tyler Beck, coming to you from Portland, Oregon, and I'm joined, as always, by Ben Lawhorn in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Hello. I should have worked on my Italian or my Russian, something that would have been a better intro than just hello. But really appreciated
bonjour. That. And it would have helped fill in for the fact that Matt, unfortunately, isn't joining us because he always has the best hello.
He really does.
Introduce him. Well, for those of you new to the show, let me be the first to welcome you to our little movie club. This began as a little three-person club between Ben, Matt, and I, where we would have a little group chat after watching movies. And it's evolved into a little community of movie lovers, and we are certainly happy that you are here. While we're at it, please do us a favor, and why don't you tell your friends about us? Tell them how they can find us, whether it's Spotify or YouTube or wherever else people find podcasts. We'd be forever grateful for your help in spreading the word. Oh, and don't forget to check out our shop at threefilmspod.com for some cool merch and information how you can be an invested supporter through our Patreon support options. Okay, with all that housekeeping out of the way, and without any further ado, I'd say we should just jump right into this week's episode.
Let's do it.
We'll be discussing the 1988 comedy crime film A Fish Called Wanda, starring Jamie Lee Curtis, John Cleese, and Kevin Kline.
Keys.
John brought his keys to the movie. But before we go any further, I think we should take a moment and introduce our very special guest, Anna from the Professional Films Podcast.
So close.
So close. I wish I was a professional professional films, but I am professional friends.
That's right.
That's right. But, it would be more fitting if I came from another film podcast.
This is perfect.
No, this is better. This is better.
Yeah,
it gives me a chance to screw up, and if people can make fun of me,
this is the crossover professional films and a podcast. This is good. This works out.
So I do.
Yeah, tell us where you can find us.
I'll find you guys. I can find you on Spotify and
I
on
obviously
YouTube.
need more this Miller Lite.
But you can find my podcast, the less successful than Professional Films Podcast, Professional Friends, on Spotify, on all the platforms you can possibly find us. We're just a roundtable chat podcast. That's three of my incredibly good friends. They're all comedians. We're kind of like friends, but like less, racist and less successful. And we all live in New York. So we're definitely talking about trying to stay in New York because the rent is pretty high, and all the taxing moments in life, like love and friendship and jobs you hate.
All the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And awkward massages, just everything that just comes up naturally,
Yeah, I got one in Queens. So we stay pretty local to New York because we all live there.
Have you guys known each other for a while? Like, how long have you guys all been friends?
So there is three more of me. There's Carolina Hidalgo, Calvin Cato, and John Vivacqua. I met John much earlier in my 20s, like doing extra work. And then Carolina, I would meet later, and she was a comedian, and then Calvin's another comedian. I think about 3 years ago, we started our podcast.
Nice.
Yeah, so all of us knew each other, but it wasn't really until all of us had each alone connections. And then until we started the podcast, we became a little hub of, misery and commisery.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty similar to how we started. Ben and I have been friends for a long time, and we had our little 2-person movie club. And then he introduced me to Matt, who, again, unfortunately
couldn't make it.
Yeah, he's no longer with us.
He's no longer a friend. R.I.P. Matt.
I tease. Matt is sometimes dead. Sometimes he's my nemesis. Depends on my mood for that day. Sometimes he's my best friend. You never know. In the theme of Unsung Gems, that's actually the round that we've just entered. So we just got through our director's rounds. We did Hitchcock, Kubrick, and then Spielberg, which was super fun. And but then Ben wanted to switch it up and go back to. Did we already do an official Unsung Gem round on the podcast?
Yeah, that's when we did The Killing, Mixed Nuts.
Okay,
and
that's right.
What was the one that you picked? It was
Oh my God, Mixed Nuts.
That was super fun. That was the first one.
So sad he's not here.
That was the first one for Tyler and I, and we had fun with that one.
Yeah.
What was yours? What was your Vanderbeek one?
Mine was
Rules of Attraction.
Rules of Attraction.
Fuck, that was something else.
Yeah, it sure was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, we've entered back into another Unsung Gem round, and I always look forward to these ones. I'm really looking forward to the movie that you picked, Ben, Animal Kingdom. And then we've got A Fish Called Wanda. And what did Matt pick?
Sing Street.
Sing Street. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
don't know that.
It's a pretty fun. It's like I think it takes place like early 80s in Ireland, and they're like starting. He wants to the main character wants to impress a girl, so he starts a band and like starts dressing like Robert Smith and stuff like that. And just like, I don't know, it's pretty cool. Like he's got the older brother that's like showing him music and all that kind of stuff. So
this is like newer, right?
Yeah, probably like within the last 5 years.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a good. I like that movie. I'm excited to watch that again.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I always have trouble on the Unsung Gems because I don't really for whatever reason, my recall and my memory doesn't quite work that way. So I actually had to lean on my grandpa, and people that have listened to this podcast know how much he means to me, both, just in life and as far as like influence in movies and movie taste. And I was having a conversation about The Meaning of Life after we watched that. And I mentioned how much I liked John Cleese, and he kind of lit up and he's like, "Oh, have you seen A Fish Called Wanda?" And I said no, and he started talking about it, and it basically became like, he's like, it's just like a must watch. If you like John Cleese, you've got to watch A Fish Called Wanda. And so I figured, I've heard of it, but like not really,
watched it.
Other than like the name, I didn't know anything about it, right? But I'd heard the name. And so I figured, well, this is probably an unsung gem. I trust my grandfather, at least for my tastes. So I figured it was a pretty decent nomination. And turns out, as always, the old bombster was right.
He was right. Didn't lead you astray.
I had a blast with this one. Anna, why don't you give us a little brief synopsis of the movie and tell us your personal experience, maybe the first time you saw it or whatever, and just your overall impression of the movie.
So I probably saw that, so basically I love Kevin Kline so much. I would marry Kevin Kline.
Me too, as it turns out.
So I remember seeing it, but I hadn't revisited it until now. I guess if I was going to do my little pitch about it, I would say it's basically an episode of Frasier, but everybody is jewel thieves.
Okay. All right.
I
like that a lot. Yeah.
Because it's like so theatrical, which I love. And everybody's like allowed to like live in this heightened world, which is very fun. But also, I think Kevin Kline, at this point in his career, was he where was Kevin Kline in his career right now? Do you guys know?
He wasn't doing too much. So this is actually, and we'll talk about this. This is my first
I don't want to jump.
known exposure to Kevin Kline.
What?
No, that's fine. I'd heard of him before. I knew his name, but I didn't know what I'd seen him in, you know. And so this is the first time I'd watched him when I knew who it was. And I looked up his IMDb, and you know, he was in like The Big Chill and Sophie's Choice, but this was one of his earlier roles. So this is, and you know, he got some acclaim from it, which we'll also talk about. So yeah, this was pretty early on for Mr. Kline.
Yeah, I think I just knew about him from, I've never seen Sophie's Choice, but I knew about him from The Big Chill and as the uncredited professor in Orange County at the end.
Oh, that's right.
Like, I think it's my biggest tie to Kevin Kline. It's like, oh yeah, that's the guy from at the end of Orange County. I totally forgot.
Oh my
about
goodness.
that.
I love Kevin Kline so much. Like because he was in Pirates of Penzance, which a lot of, I don't know, incredibly repressed girls will really resonate with, or incredibly repressed men will really resonate with. But it's like a Gilbert and Sullivan, like pirate, you know, opera. And it's just Kevin Kline in incredibly tight shorts, you know, like, and he's a pirate king.
The pirate king.
Yeah, even as a song, it's like, I am a pirate king.
I shall live and die a pirate king.
But yeah, Kevin Kline is a very specific actor, I think. Like he, you know, is full of a bunch of classical training, which makes him the perfect choice for this. Because otherwise, I think in another actor's hand, it would have been like smarmy and like, it's still a little smarmy, but like it would have just been, it wouldn't have gotten an Oscar.
No,
like,
yeah, for sure.
Probably wouldn't have been as
great
fun
for this.
to watch. Yeah.
This is my first watch. And I had a great time with it. Like similarly to your grandpa, my dad had suggested this to me.
Dads love this movie.
They really do. Yeah. But the thing that I love the most is
Jamie Lee Curtis. Come on.
I mean, she was awesome. I thought she was great in this, like having to play all the different guys. Like she was fantastic. And I talked to my dad about it. Like he was initially the first person I invited on to come talk about this. And after suggesting it to me, it came out. I was like, oh, I've actually never seen it. I've just heard it's really good. I was like, what? Like, we picked that movie partly because you like told us to watch it. So, but yeah, I mean, he also wasn't wrong. Just going in blind. He's like, you should watch this. And yeah, you're right. But I had a great time. Like, I know we're getting into, you know, who won what and everything, but this was super funny. It was, I think you could see the Monty Python in it a little bit, you know, with Cleese writing it and having Michael Palin in there as well. So yeah, I don't know. I had a blast with it. I sometimes going into the older comedies, I guess I worry or wonder like how much of it will still hold up, you know, because if some of it is like time specific, and obviously there's some like troublesome stuff in here, but overall, like I feel like the comedy, it was good comedy where it's just like it transcended everything, like the physical humor, all that kind of stuff. So I had a blast with it. I'm glad we watched this.
Yeah, same. And I think my favorite part about this movie, and we kind of touched on it, but you know, we've already mentioned how good Kevin Kline did in the movie, how good Jamie Lee Curtis did. Obviously, John Cleese was incredible. But I just loved how much everyone was just absolutely bringing it in their performance. Like at the very least, like the three top billed actors were just throwing fastballs the whole movie. And I mean, Michael Palin, I mean, his character with the stutter, I suppose he was playing it as well as he could, but it was a little tough at times. But you know, it is what it is. But for at least the top three actors, they were just really bringing it. And I'd be really hard pressed to pick a winner of the movie. But
I would say Jamie Lee Curtis, but all right.
Well, yeah. So tell us who won? You think Jamie Lee won?
I think Jamie Lee Curtis. Like I don't know. Like I just feel like she was the main character of the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And just the way that she played all the guys. I mean, like of course Kevin Kline was so specific and like also like had a bunch of catchphrases. Like who doesn't enjoy a character with catchphrases?
Yeah.
Okay. Disappointed!
But Jamie Lee Curtis, I just thought was, I don't know, like effortless.
She's great.
Yeah, she was able to transform between whoever she was with, you know, like even at the beginning where it's like brother, it's like, wait, was that her brother, you know? And then like, you know, Michael Palin's character, and then I forget the rich dude's name, was it George or whatever? Yeah.
George.
Yeah, she was just like able to play like essentially 4 guys, and I believed all of them. Like, yeah, this is great. I have going into it no idea who she would end up with, or if she would. Maybe she would just play them all and just like head out of there, which I think she easily would have done. Like if she was on that plane sitting by herself, I'm like, yep, that makes sense. She was just like going on her own.
Well, she was trying to do that with Otto like wicked early on, because there's like, oh, I don't know if I'm jumping.
No, you're good.
But like that moment where they think that they've opened the safe where they'll see the diamonds, and she already like has a rail about to fucking take him out.
She's ready. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't blame her.
Well, she just has, Jamie Lee Curtis has that very specific, like, just incredible charisma on screen. Like her energy, like she can have so much energy and like lightness and brightness to her that you would think it would be overpowering and too much, but the way that she can keep it from being overwhelming and somehow keep it from, you know, taking over the whole movie. She's a pretty incredible talent, and it would be hard not to say she won the movie. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because I think we could all, and probably will all, give different answers, and we could make a compelling argument one way or the other.
Well, I mean, to go on with that, like Jamie Lee Curtis, like being able to like work with all the guys and make it believable. I mean, during the John Cleese stuff, I know we established that like his marriage isn't great. So we, you know, they let us know like, oh, things aren't good. So when he, you know, cheats on her and stuff, like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But the way Jamie Lee Curtis plays him and stuff, I'm like, yeah, I'd probably fall for that too. Like she's like super attractive and just like very charming. Like, yeah, I get it. I understand.
And she knows just what strings to play to make him sing.
Right. Yeah. What is she, like a paralegal, like intern is her way in with
She appeals to his ego and how no one pays attention to him and all that stuff. Like she knew just how to play it.
Yeah, my favorite thing that she does is like at some point where he's, I don't know, like saying like, oh, like I did this in this case, and she's like, that's great. And then he says like,
au revoir.
You speak French too.
And then she says, oh, and you know French. And I'm like, and it was so good because you're like, oh, she got him. That was so good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, it was awesome. I put down for my winner, John Cleese. Like, I don't think any answer is wrong, but yeah, you know, as the writer of the screenplay of this, like I think coming off of obviously the Monty Python TV shows and of the movies that we had up to that point, I think Meaning of Life was the one just before this. I just think he transitioned really well to a quote unquote American movie. Like I'm not like super well versed in John Cleese, but looking through his IMDb, this felt like the first big release that wasn't behind the Monty Python name that he had written. I was like, this, I mean, he got a nomination for screenplay, which I thought was awesome. Obviously they lost to Rain Man. So like, what are you going to do? You know, you're up against
Hoffman. It's not fair. Like if it's like, all right.
Yeah. Like, I mean, yeah. What are you going to do at that point?
Did I ever tell you that the actual Rain Man came to my elementary school when I was in like 5th grade or 6th grade?
I met him once at Media Play, actually. Whatever his name was. I forget his name.
Yeah.
How do you guys have so many interactions with the actual Rain Man?
He like was doing some speaking tour and he came to our school and like he like had all these different challenges you could give him. Like you could ask him a name and he would give you their address out of the phone book or like crazy shit like that. And he could like do all these crazy calculations.
He was like, he was doing Rain Man like shit, man.
Like these guys for real.
It was pretty bananas. Yeah, the actual Rain Man. I can't remember what grade it was, but it was a really weird.
Yeah, I think he was like signing books or something at Media Play. He must have a book. I don't know. He was doing something there. He was behind a desk. So.
Oh, and the thing, he could count the jelly beans or whatever really quickly.
Nice.
Like, it was weird. Anyways, that's
nice.
Strange
the jelly bean counter. I'm gonna call him in, you know, when I need a ringer here.
You're trying to win the potluck at work or
exactly. I don't know. So I mean, John Cleese just for me kind of took it, with the behind the scenes role and the acting. And I guess the producers were worried about the age of the director because he was like in his late 70s and hadn't directed for over 20 years. And Cleese just like put his name on it just so they would like fund the movie, but just had the actual guy direct. I'm like, well, that's kind of a cool move too. It's like, it'll go on me or whatever if this doesn't work out. But I don't know. I thought he was great. But again, honestly, you could throw a dart at any of these like top bills. And it's like, they were the best part of this thing.
Yeah. When I came up with this question, when I was thinking about this conversation, I honestly have a really hard time choosing because I love all of them. But for me, I think I have to go with Kevin Kline because, like I had admitted earlier, I'm pretty unaware of Mr. Kline up until this point in my life. And so for me to match the theme of the round, he's the true unsung gem, in my opinion, just because didn't know much about him. And, he literally won an Oscar for this role, which I didn't know until doing my research after the movie. And I just had so much fun seeing him. And when you don't have any expectation for a person or their performance, and then they completely blow you away like that, it sticks with you. But at the same time, I think John Cleese probably had some of my favorite individual moments, or was involved in some of my favorite individual moments, besides one in the movie. And so, with that in mind, what was some of your favorite moments or maybe lines or scenes from this movie? We'll start with you, Anna.
All right. I would say I think I really enjoyed John Cleese and Jamie Lee Curtis the most. Like I was like shipping them, wanted them to happen
for sure.
I really appreciated the scene where they're in his friends like beautiful like loft situation, and he's like, my buddy's in Hong Kong, so I got it. And then they're about to get sexy, and he's like, I know Italian, but I also know Russian, and she's equally as like turned on by that.
I think more so.
And then he's like kind of doing this like little like little like spin, and he's getting undressed, and then the whole family that is also obviously like the timeshare has started, and this whole family is gonna go into this apartment, and
pretty badass apartment too.
He's just naked standing there, and the whole family's there, and then he covers his little parts with a picture of the wife who's like and then they have to have this exchange where he's like, what are you doing here? And they're like, well, we're supposed to be here because like, but now we're here. We already know about the guy from Hong Kong. He's back, and he said that we could have the apartment. And he was like, well, that changes everything. And then they're kind of like, oh, we know your family. How are you doing? And then he has to like have a very cordial English exchange. That's like my favorite.
Yeah.
Didn't he like try a case for them or something? Like,
it was like they knew each other in a very like professional sense, and I'd be like, oh, that's great. Like, how have you been? That was like a very it was a great payoff, that scene, I think.
Oh my God.
For sure.
It was so good. Yeah, that is definitely up there for me. I really enjoyed in a similar scene, but the physical humor of him and Jamie Lee Curtis at his house, like up in his like study. And then, he comes in like champagne, and his wife's like, why? He just like freaks out. I was like, like him, just like that whole scene, and Kevin Kline behind the door, then her behind the door, and then him just being like, I'm the CIA guy. Like the physical
and the fact
humor
that the wife is like, my father worked for the CIA. I know this is in protocol. I was like, that's pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, it's like, what do you call it, like a double bluff or something like that? Like, we're telling everyone about it so they don't think about like, I don't know. That to me was the sign of this like just like evergreen humor. It's like people can always enjoy the physical humor of like that person's behind the door, behind the couch, whatever. They've got to get out, like all that kind of stuff. Like that was such a great scene. I thought that was directed really well.
Well, I think that's like what the movie did so well. Like all its farce stuff was its most successful moments of the movie. And like, again, that's why I'm like saying, like, I kept thinking, I'm like, this is like Frasier. This is super Frasier-y, you know?
Yeah, like the side plot of Niles having to kill a dog or something like that, you know, like you definitely see that happening. It's like, oh, I couldn't kill her. I got her dog like stomped, you know, whatever by that.
So how do you guys feel about the dog?
Tough. It's tough. They actually, I read in the trivia on IMDb that they originally had made it look way more realistic, and they went to a butcher shop and got like entrails from the butcher.
Oh yeah, glad they didn't do that.
Test audiences did not like that, so they went with the more fake-looking straw dogs after they'd been squished. But yeah, I think it was the most enjoyable dead dog scene I've ever seen in a movie. Not to say I enjoyed it, but at least it didn't make me cry.
And I just loved his feeling of accomplishment and like, you owe me £1. It's like she had a heart attack. It's like, but you didn't actually kill her. Like she just died of the heart attack of heartbreak or surprise.
He did torture her and kill her dogs.
Sure did.
Just picked him off one at a time.
Yeah, he's like a hitman for those dogs.
Take everything you love very slowly. He's like Taken, but just for dogs instead of daughters.
But that was a fun plot. Like, yes. You're like, oh, we got Michael Palin over there.
Yeah.
Trying to kill this lady, but he can't bring himself to do it.
Honestly, like just like Kevin Kline, when we first meet him and he's like making fun of the stutter, like I felt the same way about the dog subplot where it's like I wasn't into it at the very beginning, but as it went on, it's like, okay, this is I like this is actually kind of funny, you know. But at the very beginning, it's like, man, is he really just gonna fuck with this guy the whole time because he's a stutter? Like that's gonna get old. But I mean, some of the funniest lines came out of that, and same with that dog subplot. Like you just bought into how absurd it was. Like this is kind of funny, actually.
So I'm sure you guys read this, but Michael Palin felt so conflicted about portraying a character with a stutter that he, like, I guess, later gave his life and like a bunch of money to like I don't know. He
started a foundation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like for kids with stutters or something. Yeah, he started the London Center for Stammering Children after he got confronted. But I mean, it's like the first.
And wasn't his dad or something?
Yeah, I was gonna say the first trivia thing is that his dad had a stutter, because that was my first thought too. Was like, man, this is like, you know, we live in a very PC time, and you know the representation, all that. And I think that's awesome. I was like thinking about this back then, like if that was an issue or not. So it was kind of interesting to see that like he had actually been raised around someone with a stutter and had got confronted and turned it into a good thing. You know, it's like he helped found a foundation that focused on this kind of stuff. So I mean, like I feel like, you know, a good ending to that situation. But yeah, it was like that was rough for sure at the beginning.
The one thing that I kind of wish the movie had done, I wish there was a reason that his stutter could be like helpful. Like I wish there was like a reason that his stutter like saved the day. And like it, you know, like the movie didn't give you like certain things that you're like, oh, that would have been nice. Although like a part of me was like, why is Michael Palin good at what he does? Like, cause like at some point they're around the table and like, obviously like Kevin Kline is like, what the fuck, is this guy even good at his job? And like Jamie Lee Curtis is like, no, he's good. But I'm like, is he good? Because like he couldn't kill that one old lady. He had to like kill the 3 dogs, and then she thankfully had a heart attack. Well, I don't know. Thankfully might be the wrong way. But like I was like, what? Is he the son of George?
I kept thinking.
Yeah, is that what we discovered?
I don't know. But there was one moment where I can't remember. Otto says something to him, and then as Otto walks away, he mutters under his breath like, "Good." Like I don't. He like. I was like, oh. For a second, I thought he was like faking the stutter, and it was going to come out that he really was like, you know, more intellectually adequate or whatever, you know. But yeah, it is kind of. I almost wonder if it's just he's just been around for so long, and he won't betray them, sort of a thing, or maybe it's some weird fucked up meta joke that he can't speak, so he literally can't speak to the cops. You know what I mean? Like
That's
something
true.
like that.
Okay.
Like I don't know, but
When they said that and they vouched for him, it reminded me kind of the Baby Driver thing where they're like asking Kevin Spacey's character, like, is he good? He's like, well, was he slow? Like, he's the best, whatever.
yeah,
And we see that he's really good. But your point, Ann, is like great, where it's just like we don't actually see him being good like
Right.
anything. Like, it's honestly like maybe my second favorite scene of the whole movie is that super slow steamroller at the very end. You know, it's like this is great physical comedy. It's like the slowest steamroller ever is coming to take over. So I thought that was super funny. But I think your idea of it being used as a plot device would have been super helpful, because the only time it really seems to take effect is when it's for someone that we are rooting for, with John Cleese, where he's like, tell me where it is. But like, if that had been used against like Kevin Kline, then it would be like, oh, okay, that's funny. Like the kid is driving Kevin Kline crazy because he wants to find out or whatever. But we ended up doing it with John Cleese, and you're just like, just tell him, you know, like he's as much of a good guy as like an adulterer can be. You know? But it's like we kind of want him to end up with Jamie Lee Curtis. So I think it's a really good point. Yeah, it could have been used, I think, on a better character.
So I'm gonna, me and John Cleese are tight like that. So I'll let him know.
Yeah, let him know.
I'd appreciate that.
For the reboot.
rewrites.
Yeah, exactly. Let's punch this up a little bit, you know?
Yeah, there's probably some things, if it were to be rewritten, that might go away, which I guess, one of my favorite moments of the movie is probably one that would go away, which is sort of a bummer because I think it was my favorite line in the movie. A little bit of mild homophobia, but when he's hitting on Otto, or when Otto's hitting on Ken, and he tells him that you're a very attractive man, Ken. You're very smart. You've got wonderful bones, and you dress very interestingly.
Yeah.
It was such like it was that specific line that I was like, okay, I'm in on Kevin Kline. That was fucking incredible. Like the delivery, it was obviously well written, but the way he delivered it was just so good. But something like that probably would go away now. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't know. Like I think that maybe Kevin Kline having to be as like honey might go away, but I don't think using the idea to like be like, I don't know, just kiss him.
Yeah.
To like throw him off.
Sure,
I don't see why that tactic needs to go away.
Yeah, you're right. The honeypot aspect of it probably would go away, but
maybe it would be like a little more thoughtful in the way that they're trying to represent somebody. But like, I don't know. Like the one thing is probably there's like a point where Kevin Kline is getting savvy to the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis is going to meet John Cleese and like finds out that he's going behind her back, and he's having like this monologue to like seem super gay, but he's like super self-hating gay. But he's kind of like, these guys, and like using all these derogative terms as a self-hating gay. Maybe that would go away, but
probably for the
I don't know. Yeah. But also like Kevin Kline, I don't know, he could be gay.
Sure, yeah, why not?
Otto could be gay. Otto could be bi.
Why not everyone? Fuck it. I did want to shout out the other favorite scene I had when Otto's holding Archie out the window.
That was enjoyable.
Gives him that very eloquent and very barrister-like apology.
Yeah. All right. I apologize.
You're really sorry.
I'm really, really sorry. I apologize unreservedly.
You take it back.
I do. I offer a complete and utter retraction. The imputation was totally without basis in fact and was in no way fair comment and was motivated purely by malice. And I deeply regret any distress that my comments may have caused you or your family. And I hereby undertake not to repeat any such slander at any time in the future.
Okay.
Like Kevin Kline doesn't know how to respond. It's like there's no rebuttal to like that's very well thought out. Like, okay, great, thank you. Like there's like pretty cool. He covered every aspect of it.
I think that's one of the things I like about John Cleese as a writer is he can be so silly yet so eloquent and heady at the same time. It's it's a pretty cool balance that he can
Strike.
do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I obviously don't have it, but John Cleese does, so thankful for that.
Well, sorry. Go on.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I don't care about Monty Python.
And that's fair.
No, I don't know. I just don't. I never really watched it. I never really grew up with it.
Yeah.
But this movie was interesting because it was English and then like not English at the same time. So it was like the Americans and the English and like.
Yeah, you could tell they were definitely going for an American movie, and I mean, he even admits as such. He they talk about it was his first success in like an American movie. But even with like the soundtrack, like at the very beginning, you hear that like synthy 80s music, reminds you of like, Beverly Hills Cop or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You hear a lot of that stuff, and like just the style of it. It definitely looked like an American film made in London as opposed to like a London or like a European film made.
A London film.
Yes, a London production. So I was having a conversation with my neighbor yesterday. We actually watched Animal Kingdom, Ben.
Nice.
On his big screen. But yeah, he's got like the projector that pulls down and stuff. It's really cool. And we got to talking about the podcast, and I mentioned A Fish Called Wanda. And he's a bit older than me, and he mentioned that he remembers when this movie came out, it was sort of like a big deal, at least in the sense that it got a lot of, people talked about it a lot. And it seemed interesting to me that it could be a big deal in its time, at least in the sense that there was a lot of conversation around it, but then it didn't necessarily, stand the test of time. There's other movies that came out around the same time, like Die Hard specifically came out the same month as A Fish Called Wanda. And,
Splash.
Sure.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Like even, yeah, exactly. That's a good example. There's other movies that have, stood the test of time, so to speak. And I just kind of started to wonder, like, what movies from today are going to have that same theme?
Many.
Yeah. And so what's the first one that you could think of, Anna?
Maybe Meet the Parents. I can't really remember much from it, but I feel like Meet the Parents, like, I'm like, I don't think you'll survive.
That's a good point. It was one of the ones, Ben Stiller and De Niro. Like, it was a big deal when it came out, and it was all over the place. But yeah, you're right.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Dad.
There's probably like a lot of like, I think like in the 90s, like, or like the early 2000s, like all these kind of, or pretty much a lot of things with Adam Sandler. I don't know. Like, I'd rather gouge my eyes out, but like, New Hampshire represent, Adam, me and you. No, but I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot of like painful college humor stuff that you're like, what? Even what's the Bandcamp one? What's that?
Oh, American Pie.
Yeah, probably American Pie is probably pretty painful to sit through now.
Yeah.
It is. Spoiler.
And as much as I love Wedding Crashers, that's another one. And you're like, oh no, what are you doing there? So I guess I would say anything maybe Vince Vaughn gravitated to in like the early 2000s might not.
For some reason, I feel like Swingers might, because it was such a cult classic, such a cult hit.
That might still be okay.
That one might, make it through, but
Just don't think she liked me in that way. Baby, you are so money and you don't even know it.
yeah, I had the same thoughts on, I wrote down Wedding Crashers and Old School and American Pie. Like, I see them on cable. I'm like one of the last people in the world that has a cable subscription, I feel like. And so I see him on like TBS and TNT.
Oh, Something About Mary. Something About Mary.
Yeah, Something About Mary. That's a great one. Yeah. Like these are movies that were like, you couldn't get away from them when they came out. But, and then now they have a life on cable. But as, cable becomes less and less ubiquitous, and, these movies are problematic at times, to say the least. So I just wonder, I have to agree. I can't see these like sex crazed comedies lasting for too much longer.
Right. It's like kind of that I don't know, like where are all those ones like the raunchy like Animal Farm, not Animal Farm, that's not what I want.
Animal House.
Animal House. Thank
Animal
you.
House, yeah.
See, but like it's a movie like that though, like that one I feel like at least everyone will have heard of. I can't imagine 15 years from now people having the same reverence for like Wedding Crashers that people do for Animal House. I think people recognize that Animal House is problematic and deserves to like stay in its time, and we can appreciate it for what it was in that moment. But like no one's gonna have that same reverence for Old School. Maybe Old School. People like that when it's quotable, but like Wedding Crashers, yeah. American Pie, like I don't know.
I think the old ones it's like Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds and stuff. Like,
yeah, they get a pass.
Probably better forgotten, like.
He was just like, they get a pass. You probably forgotten.
I just like those, and I mean, like, I guess what I'm thinking of is like not so much as like how they hold up today, but they're ones that you have heard of. Like you can't. I mean, I suppose you can, but it's unlikely that you would not have heard of Animal House or Porky's or Revenge of the Nerds.
That makes sense. I think just really quick side tangent. You brought up something about Mary and talked about like memorable movie going experiences. I sat next to my grandma when we watched that movie in the theater because I was like visiting her for that week in California, and it was like a 2 movie theater, and she had nothing else to do. She's like, "Oh, I'll come see the movie with you," because she used to just drop me off. That will just forever be seared in my head for so many reasons. Like that's a horrible movie to watch with your grandmother.
Is that a hair gel?
Yeah.
Great. I could use
No, you don't have to. You don't.
I just ran out.
If I ever find a way to travel through time, like in a Christmas Story or something, like when I'm going back through my life,
oh my God,
I'm gonna find a way to sit next to you.
So weird. I just put in the notes that just like these kind of movies, I think like the ones that get forgotten tend to be easily contribute. Like they're like the comedies and the horrors, I feel, because those don't have like the memorable scenes, like, Adios, or I mean, I can't think of the whatever from Die Hard. Why can't I think of the phrase? I don't know.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. I say adios, motherfucker. I'm like, that's not it. But yeah, something, motherfucker. Whatever it is.
There's
adios,
a motherfucker in there.
That's on the Spanish dub. That's what it says.
I hope that's true.
That'd be awesome. Adios, motherfucker. But yeah, like some of these big set pieces or like the dramas that get the Academy recognition, I feel like horror movies, while they have like a fan base, it's just not really recognized necessarily on the mainstream. So honestly, like the first couple I thought of was like Jennifer's Body. Because
funny.
like, yeah, I mean, I think that's a great movie. I think Megan Fox is awesome in that. And honestly, like, I don't know if this is a right answer or not, but like Us, I don't think it gets talked about a ton because like rightfully so, like Get Out gets a lot of attention when it comes to Jordan Peele, and that makes sense. And we're still really like new to it. But I just wonder when people talk about Jordan Peele in 20 years, how much is that going to get discussed? I don't know. Obviously, it's too early to tell, but
yeah, I think it depends on where he goes from here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, kind of curious how that happens. But, and then selfishly, like for my personal interest, like we talked about it earlier, I wasn't planning on bringing it up, but like Orange County, like I love that movie, but like I've never heard anyone really talk about it, but that cast is great. Like it's great. Jack Black, Empire Records. We talked about Tom Hanks earlier, like his first directorial debut of like That Thing You Do. Like it's a great
love
movie,
that movie.
but it just doesn't, I don't know that it ever really comes up. Like even when they're talking about Tom Hanks, it's like, he was like, he directed it, like he was in it, whatever. So I think it's those kind of things that if you were into it, like your neighbor, who like, oh yeah, Fish Called Wanda was great, I never hear about it anymore. Like, I feel like that might be me in 20 years. Like, oh, That Thing You Do is so good. Like no one ever talks about it. So I just feel like comedies and horror lend themselves to that because they're not taken as like quote unquote seriously as the dramas and the actions and stuff.
Sure, absolutely. And it doesn't like negate from like the work that the actor is putting in. So it is a bummer that they're not as respected. Although
it's
I
so strange
don't.
because to be like you're a comedian, so like to be funny is so much harder than to do anything else, right? Like, and for to have it not be something that's like, I mean, everyone wants to laugh. That's why comedies tend to be blockbusters, or
Mhm.
you know, like you can't get into the Comedy Cellar, like you know, like it's everyone wants to go laugh and have a good time, but then it's almost like photography. I used to work as a photographer, and Ben still works in that field, but it's like everyone thinks they can do it, so they don't respect it. Like everyone thinks they're fucking funny, right?
Oh,
But most people
absolutely.
aren't. So
Yeah, I've been on enough dates with guys that think they're funny, and
Yeah.
it's something. They're like, "Have you seen Old School?" And I'm like,
I've seen
"Yeah,
fucking
it's
Old
the
School.
You ever heard of
pinnacle."
The Hangover? Yeah, yes. I've
Super
heard of
indie
it. Thank
comedy
you.
with this like fat guy.
The guy who directed Joker. Like, oh, cool. Thank you.
Oh,
That's great.
no thanks. No thanks.
What an endorsement. Thank you. The guy who directed
It's a
Joker.
very good
God.
litmus test for meeting people. Is how do you feel about the movie Joker?
Yeah, if it's up here, you're like, oh no, you
Yeah,
just
good.
got brought down so hard.
I gotta go. Super busy. Sorry.
Well, I would watch The Hangover a million times before I watch the Joker, and yet Joker is the one that gets all the nominations for the Academy Awards, and it kind of goes into what we've been talking about. And you know, we mentioned Kevin Kline literally won the Oscar for Best Actor in a supporting role in a comedy, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, that was his like Marissa Tomei moment.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, it's just not something that happens a lot. Comedies typically get snubbed at the Academy Awards. So I was wondering if there's any other comedic roles that maybe did win an Oscar that you wanted to talk about, or like, you know, you just mentioned by Cousin Vinny, or maybe some that you think should have won an Oscar. And, you know, feel free to
So I feel
air
like
any
that's
other grievances with the Academy.
so many people. So like,
Yeah.
Goldie Hawn never won an Oscar. She should have got it for Private Benjamin. Adorable movie if you've never seen it. I think Steve Martin never won an Oscar. Gene Wilder. Like Gene Wilder, just to stress that again. I don't think
say that one more time. Yeah,
who
Gene
else never-
Wilder, not to railroad you here, that one is specifically shocking because of how important like Willy Wonka has become.
But that was a
as cultural
sleeper.
icon.
That was like a total sleeper. It didn't
Right.
do. I think it didn't do well at all. It's like one of those like Wizard
The
of
Big
Oz,
Lebowski
like
or something.
did badly.
Yeah.
Who else? Annette Bening, American Beauty.
Man, she's great in that.
Big Julia. Like she's always been like a dramatic / comedic actress. No Oscar. She was always beaten out by goddamn Hilary Swank.
Goddamn Hilary Swank.
Yeah, I feel like it is kind of fascinating when you're like, oh, that's weird that they don't have one, and then later towards the end of their life they get like but you got the Life Achievement Award.
Yeah, exactly.
Because everybody loves you and we didn't honor you.
Yeah, we just didn't care at the time, but in retrospect, now in hindsight, we realize, oh, you were really good. That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, they're like, Dick Van Dyke, thank you. You know,
seriously. Oh my God.
Thank you for still being alive, and thank you. I don't know. I mean, like so many also just great sitcom actors. Like that's like but I'm sure maybe they got Grammys or Emmys. Which one? Emmys.
Emmy, yeah.
There we go.
And it's always been so weird to me how for the longest time you couldn't go from TVs to movies or movies to TV. Like you had to be either or. And I really love how that's all blending together. And now it's almost seems more prestigious to be on a good TV show. Like, you know, look what happened to Bryan Cranston with Breaking Bad, or even recently Marvel's diving into more long form series, and people like Owen Wilson are jumping into it. So I don't know. It's just
Kate Winslet coming to HBO.
I was gonna say Kate Winslet.
Oh my God.
She's
I just
great.
finished it, and I wish there was more.
It.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll stop talking.
She's great.
No,
Jean
you're not
Smart's
talk.
No,
Jean Smart.
I can't spoil that for you.
I mean, you mentioned sitcom actors, and I know we don't talk about TV here, but that's one thing that will always like not to sound too basic here, but the fact that like Steve Carell always lost to the guy who played Sheldon on Big Bang Theory for best like lead actor. It's like,
how annoying is
man.
that?
Like, that guy carried The Office for 7 years and you just kept giving it to Sheldon. It's
Yeah.
like, what's happening?
Oh, it's just
now?
a show that literally changed the landscape of television for
That's insane.
ever going forward.
Yeah, but Big Bang will like really
Yeah.
That'll stick with
that
us.
that will not
People
at
fucking
all like
love that show. I don't get
I
it.
don't know what is his name, the guy Lori, the guy that's
Chuck
the show.
Lorre.
Chuck Lorre.
Chuck Lorre.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
Yeah.
No.
I'll pass.
Yeah. Not at all. To kind of not answer your question while answering it, as I like to do with your stuff. The one that sticks out to me the most, honestly, is from one of those recent Academy Awards, and I already mentioned the movie, but like Lupita Nyong'o not getting a nom for Us, like playing two roles, like just so different. She was amazing, but in that same year, kind of going to the comedy thing a little bit, was Sandler not getting a nomination for Uncut Gems because he was great. I know it's not like a traditional Sandler comedy, which is,
but that's like the only time he's good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Like,
kind of like, I know you're wearing a Jim Curry shirt, but I only like Jim Carrey when he's like sad Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The only Jim Carrey I can get behind.
Why don't you let me fix you some of this new Mococo drink? All natural cocoa beans from the upper slopes of Mountain Nicaragua, no artificial sweeteners.
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
And and I think that's great though. Like, I think that's awesome. And it's just a bummer then when they don't get recognized for that, like when they like kind of divert from what they're known for. But to go to the comedy stuff, like the second movie got some recognition, but I think that first Borat movie, like, I don't know how people feel about it, but to stay in that character for that kind of a movie and not get really any recognition, like he won the Golden Globe, which is great, but like, man, that seems super difficult to do. He's always great with all of his characters. And then honestly, I feel like Rachel McAdams should have got some nomination for Mean Girls because that movie is awesome and a lot of it is due to her. So I think she could have at least gotten some, but again, that's a comedy role, or it's just like, oh, it's just a fun Tina Fey movie, whatever. We don't need to do anything.
My one is Reese Witherspoon for literally everything, but for her an election.
An election, God, she's so good in that. She's
Have
great.
I seen Election? I don't know if I've seen that.
You should watch it. It's
a great movie.
It's really enjoyable. I just watched it again recently because my boyfriend hadn't seen it. I was like, I remember this being good, but I didn't really remember it the same way I don't really remember Wanda the same way. So I was like, oh, let's watch it. And Matthew Broderick is in it, and he's doing the most. He's so good in it. He's spectacular.
I think I have seen this, but I don't really remember it.
When they share the screen together, like they're fantastic.
Oh, Alexander Payne wrote it. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and directed it. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, nice. I don't really have anything else to add to the who should have been nominated or who would have won. I don't have the type of recall. I know I came up with the question, but do you think it's just from the reason it doesn't get recognized, comedy specifically, is because when it's done well, it looks effortless. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only reason I can think of is, like, look at Kevin Kline here, or even John Cleese, or even Jamie Lee Curtis, who is sort of over the top, but it just looks like they're just being themselves, and that must be it, because it's just, when someone's trying a little too hard, you can always tell, and it sort of ruins things. I don't know. I'm sure you've been to plenty of open mics, Anna, or seen plenty of people try to come up in the New York comedy scene, and it just, you have to have it, and I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it is. But I just think that, I remember doing theater when I was like in high school, and we did this thing where all the little like theaters would compete. Like all the high schools would do this thing where they would have to like go together and like watch everybody's 30-minute show. And no matter what, like the saddest fucking play would win. And I remember there was one year where they fucking did a school shooting play. And I was like, this fucking sucks. Like they're gonna, and it was awful. It was terrible. Like at some point they like made everything black, and then a bunch of gunshots just happened.
Oh.
And then like, you know, a
Yikes.
16-year-old kid came out and was like, Billy, where are you? Billy? And you're like, oh God. And then because like the second stage to this weird festival theater thing we would do, it was like there was states and there was New England's. And you're like, these fuckers are going to New England with that special thing they just did right there.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just like it feels weird to not let the sad stuff win.
To not acknowledge the sad stuff.
Because you're just like, oh, it was so sad. It must have been so difficult to reach those depths in those places. You know, like it's almost, it's like you vote for it out of guilt, which is, I don't know, unfortunate and cheap. I'm sorry that happened to you, Anna. I wish you would have won.
It was, I mean, we did a play called Helpless Doorknobs. I don't know if
I love it. After you go sit next to me during Something About Mary, then just go over to her competition and get in the judge's ears.
Yeah.
Listen, you guys, don't vote
and
for
you're
them.
like, this is preying on an event that happened not that long ago. Columbine is very real. Like, stop preying on our emotions. Yeah, it was like really one of those where you're like, is this like allowed? Like,
they gave them the win because they were afraid what they would retaliate.
They would
do.
They
yeah. That's unfortunate. I don't like that. Well, shit, guys. I think I've covered everything I wanted to talk about. Did either of you have anything else you wanted to talk about before we wrap up here?
The woman that was the old lady whose dog died, she is cousins to Angela Lansbury.
Oh.
I like that.
That's it.
I'm trying to remember. Is that Patricia Hayes? Is that her?
I don't know if that's her. I don't know. The old lady, I don't know. But she, I guess, is somehow related to Angela Lansbury.
Okay.
And
I love it.
And I guess all of her takes, they were just mostly one time.
Nice. I like that.
They were like, killed it, Angela Lansbury's cousin.
Good job. Tell Angela we said hi.
Yeah.
One thing I forgot to mention that I just remembered. Apparently, this movie was so funny that it literally killed someone in a theater in Denmark. This Danish man,
would happen in Denmark.
It would. But it was the scene where he puts the French fries in Ken's nose. Otto puts the French fries in his nose to torture him.
That was a crazy ass scene, though.
That was like, I was like, when I was watching that, I was like, is this supposed to be funny? This is fucking terrifying. Like, because you could tell, like, he was literally choking on the ketchup going in his. Anyways, but apparently this guy had a moment in his life where he was at some family dinner and they all put cauliflower in their nose and tried to have a competition who could eat the most carrots with cauliflower in their nose. And so seeing this scene triggered that memory, and he laughed so hard that he had a fucking heart attack and died. So that's pretty incredible.
Wow.
Fish, good job, John Cleese, you murdering.
That's so funny.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Well, not
the only
cool,
thing
pretty cool.
Tagline for a poster, though.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, just put like a
so funny
on there.
You won't be laughing anymore.
This might be the last movie you watch. I know we're not doing a Rushmore, but I feel like this could end up in the Monty Python alumni Rushmore of like not Monty Python movies, but people that are adjacent to it, because obviously Terry Gilliam's done a lot of stuff between 12 Monkeys and Fear and Loathing and Brazil, so many things. And when I forget who it was, Terry Jones, I think it was like the screenwriter for Labyrinth. And I don't know, they got a lot of movies between them, but I feel like this would have to end up on that Rushmore. I think this is probably one of the 4 best things that any of them have done. So I think it's thanks to your grandpa. Now we know that this is a fun watch.
Okay, wait. I have a question.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this movie, what other movies might you enjoy?
Oh, I'm not good at these types of questions. Ben will have to take the weight on this one. I have the worst recall for this kind of stuff. It's kind of actually why we wanted to do this podcast and like put stuff on record and make me like write about it on Letterboxd so I could actually remember stuff.
You should talk to a neurologist. I'm a little worried about you, Tyler.
Appreciate that.
He's like, that's why I'm doing this.
I don't remember anything at all.
Yeah.
This is gonna help.
Get checked out, Tyler. All right.
Yeah, I'll put it on my list. I got a big list of problems. So,
All right, Ben, you got anything? You got
I'm
any
worried about you.
references?
I mean, honestly, like, off the top of my head, it's hard. Like, having just talked about Monty Python, I keep referencing that because I see some of the humor in this stuff, but it's also just felt like a heist within a heist, you know? So some of those kind of like comedic, either heist movies or mob movies or something like that. Like, I wonder if it'd be an interesting pairing with like Get Shorty or something along those lines, where it's like, it's a funny movie in a traditionally not funny genre. I think it might be kind of interesting.
All right.
guess
Well,
what, guys?
What would you put in there?
I have two.
I'm
Perfect.
I'm cured, guys. I thought
What
of
hap-
something.
You
My
remembered
brain
something?
worked. I thought of something.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Oh, you and me both. It was getting scary there for a minute. What about the Pink Panther? I could
Yes,
see that pairing very well with
yes.
this. Yeah.
That's one of them. The Pink Panther, and then I got Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Okay.
One
Oh
of
my
my
God.
favorite movies in the
I
world.
love it.
And then I know that we're not supposed to talk about Woody Allen, but Small Time Crooks.
Okay.
Oh.
If you've
I've seen
not
that.
seen that movie, Tracy Ullman, Hugh Grant, it's about an art heist. Pretty enjoyable.
Nice.
I'm pretentious. Yeah.
I like
Those
it.
are solid. Yeah.
We don't get
I
enough
think-
pretense on our pod.
Man, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I'm gonna watch that again. I love
So-
that
Oh,
movie.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, the best.
Well, shit, you guys. I think that's probably going to have to do it. You know,
We did it.
we did it. We solved all the problems. No, but in all seriousness, Anna, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
I had a blast. I hope you did
It
as
was
well.
fun.
Do you want to take another moment to promote yourself, your podcast? You know, anything
Yeah.
really. Take your time. Do your
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely. Everybody follow professional friends. Like if you're tired of your friends and they're annoying, like hear us being annoying to each other. You know, like we'll rag on each other so you don't have to feel anxious about getting back out there after COVID and trying to make it happen with your friends. Just listen to us, you
Yeah.
know.
You li-
We'll be a good easing of the social climate you're gonna have to jump back into.
I don't know.
It really.
Have either of you struggled with small talk going back into the real world?
Oh,
at
it's a
all?
nightmare.
It's like, oh, we used to do this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe not New York. I don't know. I live in Portland. It's the slowest place on earth, so there's a lot of small talk here. But
I listened to your guys' I think it was the clubbing episode, where one of your hosts did a show and the other one showed up and it was too late for the set, like to catch the set. And just the shit you guys give him because like he had another show and so their friend just asked him to give him a ride to that but didn't stay for the show even though he missed the first one. He's like, wait, so you were there and you could have seen it and you didn't? He's like, I commit to one show. It's not my fault that he lied to me about the time. Just like it just feels like good like listening to it. It's like, oh, I feel like you're there just like involved in it all. It's fun to hear people
But also
give each other
fair,
shit,
like
you know?
no one wants to sit through anybody's set anymore.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, like you should, but like after a certain point, you're like, didn't I pay my dues? I saw one.
Yeah, exactly. I can say I knew you before you were famous. It's fine. Like,
Yeah. And of course, I'm like, why aren't my friends coming to my Shakespeare summer stock in Connecticut? And they're like, I saw that other one in the park near the
man,
freeway.
Same show,
Take
right?
work
Like,
off.
come on.
Christ, it's expensive here.
Oh,
Goodness.
I just love the shit you guys gave him. Like, you were there and you didn't stay. It's so good.
But I'm saying, like, do it so that way you can feel better about your friendships. Like,
Exactly.
Well, speaking of friendships, you watching, you listening, you're our friend. We love to have you here. We appreciate you. And tell your friends while we're at it. We want a big friendship circle here.
absolutely.
We love watching these movies. We love talking about them. And we love to get the interaction on Instagram and all that. So yeah, find us on Spotify, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all those places. Check out our Patreon and keep your eyes peeled for the next installment of 3 Films and a Podcast. See you, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Professional Films and a Podcast.
Classic.
very attractive man, Ken. You're smart. You've got wonderful bones, great eyes, and you dress really interestingly.